WNST, Taps on the docket now after a victory on Monday night over the Tampa Bay Bucks. But y'all know we got some great sponsors around here, and I have put extra effort into making everything we do here a little bit more local, a little bit more broad. And if you've heard a bunch of interviews around here with various rock stars, musicians, actors, folks coming to the Modell Lyric, you'll know they are our partner here. And I am delighted to have Jonathan Schwartz on from the Modell Lyric. You know, I don't know your official title. Executive Director, is that correct?
That is correct, Nestor.
Sure.
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Everybody knows I'm terrible with titles. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a title. I've been called names, but never titles. You know, our relationship goes back a couple years, but my relationship with the Modells obviously goes back 2 decades. But the Lyric itself, I don't know how often folks get to the Lyric, or if there's people out in the listening audience who've never been for whatever reason. I mean, I remember going as a child because I had a music teacher that loved the Lyric, and he loved all the composers and all the greats. And we would go see the Nutcracker. We would go see at that time the BSO performed at the Lyric back in the 70s, and it's before the Meyerhoff came along. And I'll tell you, I still love going there, and I live downtown, and every time I go, it's one of those places kind of like Memorial Stadium where you have memories as a child, and you remember them. And certainly from my teenage years and my rock and roll days with Jackson Browne and a whole bunch of other bands and Prince. But I know you guys are doing even more things there and making the Modell Lyric even more relevant.
Absolutely, Nestor. Well, certainly from a historic point of view, there's 123 years of continuous performance in the building.
I did not know that. 123 years?
Absolutely.
It was built in the 1800s?
1894.
I did not know that. See, I'm learning things here.
There you go. So it's been, so as you can imagine, when it was built, the acoustics were built before amplification. So the acoustics were designed for someone to stand on a stage and sing or perform and be heard before 2,500 people without amplification. So you can imagine we've got amazing acoustics and great sight lines because it was just built in a different era.
Did it always have the balcony?
The balcony, some of those seats were added.
Okay.
But the main house was built in 1894.
So that's always been the theater district for, like, our grandparents' that was the theater district, that area.
Yes, absolutely, and it's a great area, up there on Mount Royal, Mount Vernon area. We're between University of Baltimore and MICA, between the light rail and Penn Station, so great parking, great public transportation, great neighborhood, safe neighborhood that people love coming to, and certainly great performances. And I think the one thing that, for your listeners who think about what the Lyric was and what it is now, we're really Baltimore's premier live entertainment venue in that 2,500 seat range. For those bigger acts, not acts that are going to go play the arena and sell 15,000 seats, but also a place where you can come and sit and see a great show, or stand and see a great show, depending on the act. And but certainly a beautiful historic venue, and we do all sorts of different bands. So we have classic rock, which I know you've been at so many of those. We have great comedians who come there. We have family programming. We have some more classical things. So we have a great variety of shows, dance, TV shows that tour. So we really have something for everyone. No matter what your taste or your interests are, you should be able to find some things at the Lyric that you would love to come and see.
Well, I'm going to find Steely Dan. I do appreciate you bringing them in for my 50th birthday on October 11th, and especially not making it really on my 50th birthday when I have to be in Nashville on the weekend, but doing it earlier in the week. So I'm looking at Steely Dan as the kickoff of my 50th birthday week. So that's October the 11th. Also, if you've heard, I had Tom Cunningham on, which, by the way, Alex Collins loved that because this is an Irish dance show you guys got coming up next week. He's been asking me about it, so you got Irish dance. We also got John Mayer coming up, and this is kind of a special one for me. And I know you've sold a lot of tickets, and I know it's a VIP, it's a fundraiser, but my wife had her life saved at the Kimmel Cancer Center twice. So that show 3 years ago, you had Paul Rogers come in for that show with Paul Reed Smith, and my wife was literally in the hospital fighting for her life. I start to think about the Lyric, man. I've seen Robin Williams at the Lyric. I've seen David Copperfield at the Lyric. I saw Kenny Rogers at the Lyric many, many years ago. So I start to think about the wide variety of acts, and I think in the modern era, the last few years, tell me how the Modell family got involved. I never asked David about it, and I know Art and Pat were so involved in the arts in Cleveland, and Michelle, obviously the survivor, and even John Modell, who I see kind of regularly. I mean, John lives on the West Coast. Whenever we're together, I saw him this summer, but I've never asked any member of the Modell family exactly how they selected the Lyric to be a place they wanted to have their name, right?
Well, we're very honored to have had their support. They came in at a time when there was a major renovation project going on to improve the backstage of the Lyric, and they were willing to put their support behind that project. And I know Pat Modell was very passionate about the arts, and obviously Pat and Art were the real driving force behind that, and we continue to partner with the Modell family to this day.
Well, she was a real artist, right?
Yeah,
I mean, she was a real actress for all of her life. Yeah. I think a lot of folks here, that was sort of, it was not lost on my mother because my mother watched General Hospital, right? So,
okay. There you go.
So when my mother saw Pat Modell, she's like, hey, she's from the soap opera.
Exactly. Everyone has their different touchstones on different people. You meet a person at a different era, and you think of them at different times.
Well, some people thought of her as the woman that acted with Ronald Reagan, because she did, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, so we're very proud to have their name and to have their support and to continue to have their legacy in Baltimore, because they've certainly done, by bringing the Ravens to town, they've done tremendous service to our community, and we're proud to be a part of the Modell legacy in Baltimore.
You know, I like that it has the Modell name on it, because it really does talk about what the Modell's legacy here is. And, you know, they get beaten up. I go out to Canton every year, and they're never going to put them in the Hall of Fame and all that. And I said, you know what? Everybody talks about what Art did to Cleveland. Let's talk about what Art did for my town, for Baltimore. And and Art's picture, by the way, is in every single video. It's behind me. I keep it on the table, because if there's no Ravens here, you and I are not talking, right? I mean, there's no Nestor, there's no WNST, if there's no Ravens. And I think the same thing would be true for the Lyric, because it's easy to sort of bring, a bulldozer or a wrecking ball to old facilities. Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, we like going to those places. But modernizing an 1894 facility, I want you to talk a little bit about that, because for the kinds of shows you want to bring in, when you want to bring in the Flatley Lord of the Dance, and there's an incredible stage production, the stage has to be able to handle that. Hey, I was down at Merriweather recently. They have a rotating stage down there now, so they can put the opening act and the main act and get their equipment on stage and literally click a button and the stage will spin. The modern version of theater and what goes on in those Broadway theaters in New York, especially in tight spaces, it's really incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, it's very important, and one of the things that the Modell's helped support was the investment into that backstage area so that we can handle the best and the biggest shows. We have the best facility in Baltimore for those big shows. Some shows that may not be able to go in other venues can definitely utilize the Modell Lyric, and we're very proud of that. And we know how important it is to have a venue that can accommodate all these things, because we want Baltimore to be on the map. We don't want tourists to say, we played Philadelphia, we played Washington, we did that area. We want them to stop in Baltimore. We want them to have a place where their artists have a great reception, where they can sell tickets, where they can come and perform on an East Coast swing. We need to be that premier live entertainment venue to make certain that Baltimore fans of all sorts of music, of dance, of children's programming, of comedy, have a great place to come and see, and also to allow us to support great organizations like Kimmel Cancer, for them to be able to have fundraisers in our building gives us great pride. It makes us a great part of the city. We will also have the Journey Home, which is another fundraiser. Brandy is going to be performing on October 20th. We're excited to have that. And also, you mentioned Flatley Lord of the Dance. For your listeners, if they want to come see that, if they put in the code FLAME, F-L-A-M-E, they will get great rates on tickets. So that's FLAME, F-L-A-M-E, and we can get your listeners some terrific rates on tickets to come see Lord of the Dance on Thursday, October 4th.
Maybe with Alex Collins. We'll check it out. Jonathan Schwartz is my guest. He is the executive director at the Modell Lyric, one of our partners, one of our sponsors here. We like to bring on the folks who support what we do here for all of our sports and all of our website and social media and all that stuff, and tell their story as well. By the way, I saw the Brandy date, and I had met Brandy. Brandy was on my show maybe 15 years ago. I ran into her at an event, and she did some radio with me, and I did not know what Journey Home Baltimore was. And as you know, I do a lot with the Community and Charity Series here on Thursdays. The Journey Home brings together the public and private sectors, not-for-profits, faith-based organizations, and concerned citizens to work on solutions for preventing and ending homelessness. So how many benefits do you do a year? I mean, I'm very familiar with the Paul Reed Smith event, which I think's had a home at your place for at least a decade, right?
It's had several years there, yeah. So we are open. We work with community groups, and we're happy to, whenever we can work with a great partner, to put on a great event for Baltimore and raise money for important causes. Obviously, anyone who's in the city or in the county or in the suburbs sees homelessness on a sadly on a daily basis, and this is something that we as a society need to be working on to try and help people. It's all about caring about people, and we at the Lyric certainly want to be a place that cares about the community. We're not just a building sitting in a city. We are an organization that is outward-looking, whether it's helping with these great charity events, whether it's our education programming. We do education outreach throughout the city, after-school programs. We partner with schools. We have actually an essay contest tied to Dr. Martin Luther King, and we do things too. So I want people to know that the Lyric is not just an inward-looking place where you come and you're supporting a building. You're supporting a great arts organization that reaches out to the city and makes a difference in people and children's lives in Baltimore, and that's critically important, that we are part of the city and part of making a difference in Baltimore, which I think is critical for all organizations to do.
Well, we appreciate your support, and then when people support you, they're supporting me and supporting us, and I appreciate that. So the Modell Lyric can be found at modell-lyric.com. Jonathan Schwartz is one of my pals around town, and bringing the shows down to the Modell Lyric. I get in this conversation with you, and I hadn't thought a lot about it because I've been thinking about Pittsburgh Week and all the stuff going on and everything going on in real life. And I try to think about all the times I've been to the Lyric. I start to mention them, right? So I saw Prince there, but that's not my favorite story. I saw Lionel Richie there one night, and I saw Lionel Richie after the Ravens had played a home game. And I had really good tickets. I was like in the third row, and I looked to my left, and there's John Ogden on the aisle. And I've known John from the beginning. Here's all 6'9", probably 7'2", because he was rocking the fro back then. He had the high hair, And here's John Ogden and I dancing to Commodore songs together in the aisle. I hope somebody has a picture of that. But that's probably my favorite Modell Lyric moment. We did have some refreshments prior, so John and I were a little loose. It takes a little more for him to get loose than me, but we were very loose that evening, as I remember. So, it's great memories at the Modell Lyric. Big shows coming up. Let me read you the schedule a little bit. Flatly Lord of the Dance. If you go to the buyatoyota.com audio vault, you can hear my interview with Tom Cunningham, who, by the way, John, I didn't know this, grew up 10 miles from Dundalk, Ireland, when I had him in the conversation. So we have the Irish Dance, Lord of the Dance, next Friday, October 4th. Love is in the Air, a 90s tour on the 5th. Acoustic Evening with John Mayer on the 7th. Steely Dan on the 11th. You're wearing them out down there, man. I mean,
that's the plan.
Bill Burr, 2 nights doing some comedy down there on the 18th, and that's my birthday week as well. Brandy on the 20th with the fundraiser for the Journey Home. That's a local organization for homelessness. Then you had to move that John Cusack show, too, because of the hurricane that didn't come and all that stuff. He's an interesting cat because he's a huge sports fan, John Cusack.
Oh, we're really excited to have that show, Say Anything. Certainly people who are our age, because I'm a few weeks younger than you, celebrating my 50th this year, and Say Anything is one of those movies that we all saw back in the day, and I think we're going to have a great crowd of people. Some people are bringing their children who are a little younger to come see with them and experience what their parents remember from high school or college days. And I think it'll be a great experience. If you come to one of those performances where we show the movie, it's really exciting because you see the movie with everyone in that audience knows the movie, loves the movie, and is excited by it. And then to hear the actor who starred in it talk about it afterwards and tell stories from back in the day is really an exciting thing. And I would certainly recommend that to all of us who remember the 80s fondly, and maybe not some of the pictures of what we were wearing in the 80s, but certainly we're of that era. It'll be a great evening to be surrounded by great people and to see a great movie with John Cusack telling you all about the times that they had making it.
There's nothing in my high school yearbook that's going to incriminate me, so I assure you of that. Kansas also showing up on November 24th. We interviewed David Ragsdale, who's the violinist from Kansas. That's out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault as well. One of my wife's favorite is Straight No Chaser, the a cappella group, and that's, I know they do a holiday thing as well. They're coming November 25th, so maybe there'll be a little holiday magic, but I know the Beach Boys are doing literally a Christmas tour, and they're coming to the Modell. I mean, I'm going through all these shows. I haven't even got the John Mellencamp yet, man. I mean, it's crazy. Or Joe Bonamassa next year. So you guys are already booked into next year down at the Modell Lyric.
We're booking. One of the things is we are continually adding shows. So always be looking at modell-lyric.com because shows get added. Some people think, you must know your season a year or 2 years in advance. We do not. There are shows that will be booked between now and the end of the year that I can't tell you what they are because they haven't been confirmed. We don't even know about them yet. We're continually adding shows, so you should always keep an eye on our website. Make our calendar a destination for yourself so that you are checking it and seeing it so you don't miss any great shows. I know this week, when John Mellencamp went on sale, tons of people were buying tickets, and John Mayer went on sale, and tons of people are buying tickets.
Some guy got locked out of John Mayer tickets, this guy right here. And, here's the thing. I'm going to be in Cleveland that night, so I have an angry wife now. She's like, you got to get me to John Mayer. He's playing acoustically. It's for Kimmel Cancer, and I have my life. And I'm like, all right, I'll get you to John Mayer for crying out loud. But I'm upset that it's on a night when I can't go. But Steely Dan's 4 nights later, so you are... you're kicking my 50th birthday week off with style down at the Modell Lyric, so I'm very, very happy about that. Tell everybody, just in general, how this works when you get these shows and how a show comes to your place instead of another. I'm always fascinated by that because I've always wanted to see Steely Dan in a theater, and I had a chance about 2.5 years ago, right after Jen got well the first time. We were in New York one night, and they were playing the Beacon Theater. And I thought, man, seeing Steely Dan in a little theater, that's the place to see them. This is going to be an incredible night for me. They're one of my all-time favorites.
Well, it's certainly exciting. So the way we get acts is certainly they tour, and we hope to be that in Baltimore that we can be the destination that they want to come to. We work very hard working with different agencies and agents and being out there and making sure that we're telling the story of the Lyric and telling the story of Baltimore so that those artists want to route through Baltimore and come and perform at the Lyric. And so if the timing on the tour is right, if the business plan works, and if we can excite them about coming, then we're happy to have them. So we certainly feel an obligation to bring the best and the brightest to Baltimore, things that people want to see. And we pride ourselves on being a very diverse location, that we have all sorts of different artists, as you've mentioned.
Well, you're doing Sesame Street for kids. I mean, I should point that out. You're doing a Charlie Brown Christmas live on stage for kids and for the family. So, literally, I can't. I'm just looking here. You get an Irish dance, classic rock, traditional rock, comedy. You've got jazz, you've got soul, you got Brandy, you got movies with John Cusack, you got the Beach Boys for crying out loud. So yeah, I would say it's a wide swath of entertainment at the Modell Lyric, right?
Absolutely. If there are 60 shows, I don't expect every person is not going to want to come to every 60 shows, but there are 4 or 5 that speak to you. And we would really be excited if you came and joined us. And once you come to one show and have a great time, I'm sure people want to keep coming back to the venue, because it's a great venue, a historic venue, and people really have such positive memories like you do of the venue from what it used to be. But what it is today is a great live entertainment venue focusing on different acts than it used to. Obviously in its history it was the Opera House, and in its history it was, that sort of music, but it's not that anymore. That we are really, it still has all the great sounds and great sight lines that it's had, but it's got a much more modern list of shows and a much more exciting list of shows and things that appeal to people of all ages, whether you're young and you come to a Charlie Brown or a Sesame Street, which I think the parents have a better time watching the kids' faces than the kids do watching the stage. The kids love the shows, but to see the parents' faces when their kids are so excited to see a live theatrical event, and the grandparents, is really always very exciting. And then of course we have our comedy and classic rock and something like the Beach Boys, which appeals to an older demographic, but they're all great.
Hey! Come on now, I'm not an older demographic. Come on.
I hate to break it to you, Nestor. We're working our way into that.
Well, I tell you what, everybody should go to the Modell Lyric. I have been bragging about it. You hear the commercials. I wanted to bring John on to talk about all the events, especially because it's heating up right now. I mean, you guys have events almost every other night, 3-4 nights a week. Stuff's going on down at the Modell Lyric. John, I appreciate the support. It's got Modell on it. It's got Lyric on it. I can't promise that everybody's going to dance with John Ogden during the Commodores, but I can promise you'll have a beautiful evening if you go down to the Lyric. I would say the Modell Performing Arts at the Lyric, but I just call it the Modell Lyric at this point.
That sounds great to me.
Thank you for your support. We'll check in again soon, and I'll see you down there for Steely Dan. Save me a couple. I don't need really close seats because, it's not like seeing Brandy or anything, but as long as I can hear them do a little Hey 19 and a little Bodhisattva, I'm going to be very happy, man.
Everywhere in the house is a great place to be, and we'll make sure. We look forward to seeing you then and seeing Jen, and go Ravens.
Don't make me feel old that night, John.
I will not.
I'll do the same thing for you. John Schwartz joining us here. He is at the Modell Lyric. He's the executive director there, and you can learn more about all the magic at the Modell Lyric at modell-lyric.com. You can find me out on the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download it. Podcast it just like Steely Dan. No static at all. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Taos, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.